Good afternoon. Welcome to our show. I'm your host, Melissa Ridgen. Well, many of you might have always wanted to be teachers, but for whatever reason didn't get your degree to take on the task of educating our youth, or you're like me and you just simply couldn't imagine having a couple dozen kids to wrangle every day. Well, regardless of your propensity for teaching, those of us with kids are now in the same boat, forced to be homeschooling our children during this COVID-19 pandemic. Today we are putting learning at home in focus. It's been a long 6 weeks in lockdown for many of us, especially those still working full-time and now having to teach in addition to fulfill those requirements of your job. Compound that by however many kids you might have, and it's easy to see why that there are a lot of nerves that are frayed and tensions are high. Or maybe you're just running out of ideas and steam. Well, today we're going to cover all of these bases. We have incredible guests on tap, including moms who have found some successes and have some tips to share or commiserate with us in some regards. We've got two ingenious Indigenous educators who have started an incredibly helpful Indigenous education resource page that has exploded with teachers from across North America using this teaching tool for Indigenous and non-Indigenous students alike. It's kind of one of many silver linings to come from this COVID-19 pandemic. And you will not want to miss a kokum who is homeschooling her 6 grandkids. She's got some sage advice for all of us and is just a wonderful woman. You'll really be glad to meet her. And of course, it's a call-in show. If you have tips to share for homeschooling or a funny story about how it's just a nightmare and you're battling me to be the worst teacher ever, as my son has called me, give us a call. Share. We're here to laugh. We're here to share. Toll free, 1-877-647-2786. You can also tweet us at APTN InFocus, or you can leave us a comment if you're watching right now on our Facebook Live feed. So, as I said, I'm not cut out to be an educator. It's not something that I've ever cared to explore, but I do come from a family full of teachers. So a big shout out to my cousins, Debbie and Brooks Asham, Danielle Pelche, and my brother, Bryce Ridgen, all educators. They have the gene, I do not. But like you, I've been thrust into this role of educator, and it's not been an easy transition. There's a lot of frustration, a lot of stress, and I've realized that I still can't do grade 4 math, so there's a little bit of a devastating ego blow on top of all of it. At my house, we spend the mornings doing school assignments and other educational activities before I switch gears to having to do my own work. Here's a little video diary of my 9-year-old. Luckily, on a good day, here's what happens at home.
My measurements, so that's my math and my home ec. Hopefully you can make crepes too. We have a project and for our physical classroom. It's a world music project. So you pick a country, and then you have to do a world music project on their folk music.
What country did you pick?
I picked Syria.
So you're researching Syrian folk music?
Yes.
Nice. What you got going on?
Well, it's a school project. It's my science. We're growing sage, arugula, and spinach from scratch. And we just need to water it right now.
Lavender.
But what happens is we end up with these beautiful sticks like this. And back over there is what we have cleaned so far.
What are you learning about, Lynn?
That's what we've done since we started.
Harvesting natural medicine.
Red willow?
Yeah.
Now these sticks can be used for many
Kathy
things. And I
Bird
imagine
there teaching.
children with a lot of imagination could do a lot with these.
Pass your toes. So level 1, down and up. Level 2, kicking it up. Level 3, I want you to start jumping down and up.
Getting those squats in there. I want to say hello to right now to my nieces, Lucy and Kate. You're getting homeschooled by Winston's grandma and grandpa. So lots of excitement going on at that household too. So hi, Lucy and Kate and grandma and grandpa. So it's a struggle to have a peaceful, productive day homeschooling one child. Well, imagine having 4 while you yourself are also a student and your husband is away working up north. And 2 of your 4 children, they have high needs. Well, that is Alice McKay's reality, and she is nailing it. She joins me now from her home in Winnipeg. On a scale of 1 to 10 for stress today, how is this Wednesday going for you all there?
You know what? It's actually not going too bad. On a scale of 1 to 10, maybe like a 2.
I don't know that I've had a day that's only a 2, so you're doing better than me. Share with our audience, what grade are you teaching for each of your children?
Well, I have a grade 2, a grade 4, and grade 6 and grade 7.
And you said that you have the advantage of being a 4th-year education student yourself, but this is not what you've trained for. Explain to us kind of, because I think maybe there would be some people out there thinking, wow, this will be easy for her. She's used to having 4 kids, and she's a 4th-year education student, so homeschooling 4 kids would be easy, but there's challenges you didn't anticipate. Share that with us.
You would think, like I said, being a 4th-year education student is definitely an advantage that I have that I think a lot of other people maybe don't have. Mm-hmm. But that being said, when I'm in the classroom, it's a group of, like 17, 18 kids who are all the same age, who are all in the same grade. Mm-hmm. So that makes this a little bit more challenging. The fact that they are different ages, different grade levels, they're developmentally at different places. And not only that, right, but 3 out of 4 of my kids are neurodiverse. So that makes it extra challenging. Yeah. 2 of them are on IEPs. And so it's like, how do you do that? It's hard.
You have said in the beginning that you had the best laid plans and intentions and preps of how this was all going to shake down right at the very beginning of this pandemic, and you had to kind of scrap those and pitch them out the window. Share with us what wasn't working and how did you adapt?
Well, when we first started, like when the province first announced the schools were going to be closed, that last week that they were open, I didn't send them. I just happened to be home anyway because I had a break in between my last class and when I was starting practicum. So I just was like, hey, I'm going to keep them home. And during that week, like I had planned, I had prepped a bunch of things. I set up like, hey, so this is what we're going to do at this time, and then this time, and this time. This is how it's going to go. The first day went kind of okay. Mm-hmm. But after that, like, I didn't realize how hard it was going to be to keep 4 kids.
Well, we're looking at some pictures right now as you're speaking. We're seeing pictures on the screen of some of the things that you've got them doing at home. You've got we're cooking some hamburger for a home ec class. We could see like you've got a virtual classroom up on your dining room wall. It looks like here. It looks like a school class.
Fun, actually. And the reason for that was because I didn't know how long, at that point, like I didn't know how long schools were going to be closed for. Mm-hmm. And being off like the week before spring break and then spring break and the week after, I didn't want them to fall out of routine. Like I didn't want it to throw them way off for when they did go back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the reason for that. Those are the things that they're used to having in the classroom. And so I wanted to make it as familiar for them as possible.
You did too, you said another challenge is that you've got 2 computers for 4 kids.
Yeah.
How do you manage that? And again, with all the different grade levels and different expectations and workloads, right?
Yeah. So for my 3 younger ones, like I had said to you before, I'm not super worried about keeping up with what their teachers post on Google Drive. Mm-hmm. Sorry, guys. Because they are just elementary school age kids, and so nobody fails elementary school, right? Mm-hmm. So my biggest focus was making sure that my oldest son, who's in grade 7, had access to the computer whenever he needed it, mm-hmm. and that he was able to keep up with his assignments on Google Drive, because grade 7, junior high, it's not the same as elementary school.
You had said too, a big helpful tool that you've come up with is a weekly plan for everybody.
Yeah.
Share that with us, because that's something, when you told me that, I thought this does seem like this could make my life a lot easier, as opposed to waking up every morning and scrambling.
It has made my life so much easier. You know, because like I said already, we're a house full of neurodiverse people. So my youngest has autism and ADHD. My youngest son has a combined ADHD. I have ADHD, and my older son is waiting for an assessment for ASD also. And so I just kind of did what works for me. So I get super overwhelmed when there's huge lists, like page-long lists in front of me of things I got to do, and it's like I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
So the idea of having the mini calendar, or like a weekly calendar, kind of came to me, because then it's like it's not so overwhelming with so much information to look at one time.
Yeah.
And then I found with my oldest that he just had 3 things that he had to do each day. It was like, that's all you have to do today. He got so much done.
Well, you had said you gave him, he's got 3 things, and it's like I don't care when you do it in the day, that's just where you have to get these things done, and then you don't have the fighting of trying to keep somebody on task from 10 till 10:15. You have to do this, right? So just kind of let it go a little bit.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So, yeah, when we first started this thing, you know, it was like, hey, everybody's going to get up at 8 o'clock. We're going to have like our little breakfast club from 8 to 8:30, and then we're going to start getting ready, and we're going to get into like doing what we got to do for the day. I mean, it just got to the point where that wasn't working anymore, because you know, it works at school, but this isn't school, right? This is home. And so I had to adjust and modify quite a bit. So I started like letting them sleep in a bit, and just kind of letting them get going on their own at their own speed. And it just worked so much easier, because then when he would start, like he's going to start his 3 tasks, and he would just start them, and he would finish all 3, and then that would be it. And there was no fight, there was no argument, there was like, you know, he wasn't frustrated, I wasn't frustrated.
This is genius. You also have tips too for parents, you know, beyond what's being sent home from school. You know, what do we use to as a break using screen time? Like I know you'd said, I think it was something to the effect that, you know, you don't have to keep them constantly engaged all the time, although we might feel like that's what we have to be doing. You use Disney Plus sometimes too, right?
So with my youngest one, she's the one with autism and ADHD, and she has like a pretty, not strict, I guess, but she has like an IEP that she sticks to at school, because she's academically, she's not where she should be. And so with her, because we have that, I'm the parent, right, and she's the child, and so parents and their children, there's a totally different dynamic than children and their teachers.
Yeah.
So to get her motivated to do anything was really, really difficult. And so on Disney Plus, I don't know if viewers have Disney Plus, there's like a section where it's just National Geographic and other like educational shows. And so we have a dog. And so we had kind of a little accident with our dog, and like I said, our dog is okay. And there was a piece called "How Dogs Got Their Shape," and it just like talks about dogs and stuff. And so then I mentioned too, there's a website called Teachers Pay Teachers, and there's a lot of free resources on there that are really, really great. And so I was able to find like a question sheet to go with that, I don't know, movie, I guess we'll call it, on Disney Plus. I would add to that too. I've spent the money. It's like $5 or $6 a month, and I've signed up for BBC Earth, so lots of, you know, planetary things and nature things, and the Smithsonian channel. And these are $5 or $6 each a month.
it's imperative for when we're having to switch out, like you can't use the computer anymore, I need to get on for work, but I want you to still be engaged. I'm not going to just set you free to go play video games or whatever quite yet, but I need you to still be in thinking mode. And those channels, again, BBC Earth and Smithsonian, worked out very well. I'm going to let you go now. I really thank you so much. I know you're busy, Alice, taking on 4 kids, 4 different grade levels while doing your own work still too. All the best to you. I can't wait for your adventures when you get into an actual classroom to teach.
Oh, thank you. I know. I look forward to it. Actually, I really look forward to the day when they can go back to school.
Yeah, we all are. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
So we have a caller now. Do we have time to go to a caller, or do we need to take a break? I thought we don't have Tori? Okay, we're going to go to a break. But when we come back, we have a kokum you are not going to want to miss. She is amazing. She's a North End kokum raising, homeschooling 6 of her grandkids. Incredible insight and advice to get you through. And we'll have some pretty amazing comments from you all about how this whole homeschool thing is going for you guys. Stay with us. I thought Tori was on the phone.
647-2786. Like us on Facebook on our APTN News page. Follow or tweet us at APTN InFocus. And send your thoughts to infocus@aptn.ca.
Yeah. Welcome back. Let's go to social media now with our social media editor, Jesse Andrushko, to hear what some of you are saying about today's topic.
Thanks, Melissa. Online, we asked, how's it going with homeschooling your kids? We wanted to hear what tricks and resources you're using and whether you've had any frustrations being thrust into the role of a full-time teacher. Candy said, I learned the #1 tip, don't stress. If things aren't going good on day 1, early school dismissal and try again the next day. I have 6 grandchildren, all different grades, kindergarten, grade 1, 5, 7, 8, and 9. I get them to work on their schoolwork that the school sent them, but I add things too. We learned about birds migrating this time of year and made little bird houses out of popsicle sticks, filled them with bird food and hung them outside. Also, the science class, we began growing flowers from seeds so they have responsibilities for taking care of them. From Jamie, I'm a driller by trade and with only a grade 12 education and now employed by the government at $2,000 a month through the CERB to educate my 3 boys ages 7, 8, and 11. The first couple days were bad, but time management helped a lot to make things work for us. I categorized the work into curriculum and skill development, with skill development being mostly iPad stuff that I can leave them on their own with so I can work with one directly on curriculum stuff. This helps keep everyone busy and engaged while I work with them with one directly. I'm able to get it all done within 3-4 hours, but I Googled that lots of breaks help them keep sharper and engaged. I also have a reward system in place we stick to so that they know they have a goal to reach and seem to work a bit harder to get to that goal set before them. I also add that I can see a difference in organization and effort between the 3 teachers, and that makes a world of a difference. How organized the packages are sent home and the instructions done online to help the kids. I have one teacher who goes above and beyond and even calls her student every morning and reads with him for half an hour. While I have one other teacher I rarely hear from, so it makes a big difference. And lastly, from Niana, I'm homeschooling 3 kids, grades 11, 4, and 1. My kids' school does everything online now. They were given laptops to do schoolwork and are on them daily for those lessons. We do bike rides for phys ed and go on field trips out exploring and learning about plants and animals. Great answers. We want to know how you're handling classes from home. Share your tips and tricks with us. Here's how. Now, call in toll-free at 1-877-647-2786. Like us on Facebook on our APTN News page. Follow or tweet us at APTN InFocus, and send your thoughts to infocus@aptn.ca.
Thanks for that, Jesse, and to all of you who contributed. So before we get back into our show about learning from home, I just wanted to share a message that we received about our episode last week. You will recall that we talked to several parents who are missing their children who are in child welfare custody during this pandemic, and the heartbreak of that. And in this one case, in both cases, it was evident that these kids maybe shouldn't have even been taken at all from their parents. One was a young married couple that are now charged with kidnapping their infant and their toddler at the beginning of this pandemic, fearing for their safety. We received a letter from a viewer in London, England, that we want to share with you, and she said, "Dear Melissa, I am deeply troubled by your story on April 27th. It seems another heartbreaking event in systemically unjust history and is unconscionable. If the accounts are accurate of tear gas and machine guns, I cannot even imagine how distressing it would be for everybody involved." That's, of course, how the police got the children back. Family issues should never be met with such heavy-handed policing measures. Thank you, and if you're in contact with the family, please let them know that I very much would hope that they would have full parental care at the soonest possible time. And finally, thank you for reporting. Journalism is vital for a fair and we can hope one day harmonious world. Signed, Gwyneth Hawkins from London, England. And two other important updates on that story. The Independent Investigations Unit of Manitoba is now investigating the RCMP use of force in that incident after several people were injured when police went to retrieve the children from their parents. And another interesting point is that sadly that little boy, the infant, turns 1 today. It's his birthday and he's celebrating without his family. His parents have missed his first Christmas, Easter, and now first birthday as they battle to get their children back from the child welfare system. Well, back to learning at home. My next guest is a North End Winnipeg kokum who is knocking it out of the park, homeschooling her 6 grandkids. Sandy Volk joins us now from her home in Winnipeg. Candy.
Hi.
Hey, thank you so much for taking time out today to join us. So share with our...
Thank you for inviting me.
After talking to you yesterday, I'm like, Candy needs to share her wisdom with the rest of us because you've got it on lockdown, and so you've got 6 kids. What grades do you have going on at your house right now?
The 2 little girls, they're kindergarten and grade 1. Mm-hmm. The boys are grade 5, 7, 8, and 9.
What's the biggest piece of advice that you have for parents right now who are homeschooling their kids and are feeling frustrated?
Don't feel stressed. There's days when it's just not going to work, and that's okay. Don't stress will cause a lot of frustration and anger, and it just won't go good. So just take the day off.
I like that. You've had a Spirit Week and a talent show at your house even, just to kind of kick off this COVID lockdown. Tell us, how do you come up with these ideas? And do you do you look at a week by week, or day to day, or what's your process?
Well, when the lockdown first started, the kids were really looking forward to Spirit Week at school, but there was no school, so we had our own Spirit Week. We also had spring break. We still had that. And then I just come up with ideas for the week, but sometimes it just doesn't work. So I don't always stick to what I have planned for the week. There was one week where we really got busy studying hard all week. So then I thought at the end of the week, let's have fun. So that's when I told the kids on Friday, we're going to have a talent show, and we had games and prizes and snacks.
Can you tell us a little bit about the outdoor classroom that you've got there behind you?
Yeah, these are some of the things that my students have been working on.
We can see some bunnies. That looks like a little craft project back there. What else is there?
Yeah. We did bunnies for Easter. The kids we talked about birds for science class and how they migrated in the spring. So we made them little bird houses out of popsicle sticks, put bird food in there. We talked about safety issues like wearing masks, using hand sanitizer, hand washing. When I taught them about hand washing, I showed them, and then just to show them how good they they wash. I put chocolate pudding on their hands and made them pretend that's soap. So they really learned good by that because they seen where there was no chocolate pudding on their hands. So we learned about safety things because they didn't really comprehend this whole lockdown and the pandemic and what the virus was all about. And so from day one, I really stressed to them that we are not stuck at home. We are safe at home. That's the number one thing. And then they do journaling. They watch the news.
That's what I was going to ask you too about the journaling. You'd said about the sharing your feelings and your emotions and getting that out and writing it down and having those conversations. Share that with us.
Yeah, sometimes the news can be kind of hard for them to really comprehend and understand. So on days like that, they just kind of shut down. So we put the books away and we sit around the table and we talk. And at first they had a hard time talking about their feelings. So I gave them construction paper and markers and crayons and they drew their feelings. And then it was easier for them to talk about it. And so I think now they're comprehending more that staying at home is more safety. It's safe for them here.
Something I thought interesting too was that you've got a home ec and shop class going on, teaching real life skills that kids don't necessarily learn at this age. Share that with us, because these are things that anybody could do at home.
Yeah, the boys went out and they learned how to basic vehicle maintenance, like how to open the hood. They didn't know that. How to check the fluids in the vehicle, what the different fluids are for. And if they're low or empty, how to fill them up, and how to change a tire. Just basic things that if and when they get a vehicle, they'll be able to do.
And the girls were cooking
too. Just basic cooking.
Yeah, yeah. And everybody's happy so far?
They know how to... Pardon?
Everybody's happy so far with the lessons?
Oh yeah, they are. They're learning a lot that they wouldn't normally learn in school. I have 3 who want me to be their teacher in September. And 3 want to go back to school.
Well, I think that mine's going to stop asking to be homeschooled after his wish came true and he ended up stuck with his mother, who he says is the, quote, worst teacher ever. He's going to be happy to going back to school. Candy, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today and share some good advice with our viewers at home.
Yeah, I just really, really want to tell them, don't stress. It may not be good every day, but just be patient, because they're just little and they have feelings that they can't always explain. So just be patient with them.
Amazing advice. Thank you so much, Candy. We have got to take a break, but still ahead, an incredible online teaching tool that's been set up by 2 Indigenous educators from Saskatchewan to help throughout this pandemic. We'll meet them and we'll show you the page that you will really want to add to your children's curriculum. Stay with us. Welcome back. On the phone now we have Tori from Ontario. She's fostering 2 kids, aged 10 and 4, and like many of us has found herself kind of at the end of her rope trying to homeschool kids, doing the maze of materials that are sent home by teachers. She's thrown out the rule book, so to speak. Tori, tell us about the decision to get back to the basics when you saw that the 10-year-old was lacking some things with math, long division, multiplication, and you went, nope, that's it, we're going old school.
Yeah, that's absolutely what I had to do. I have no idea what the new math is. I tried to watch some videos, and I'm like, I can't do this. And just seeing him struggle and feel overwhelmed by the work that was sent home with him, it was just like, no, we're just... I know how to do times tables. I know how to do addition, subtraction, carry over, you know, and we're going to do it. We're going to do it the way I learned, and he's doing really well with it. And today, again, a new challenge came up, and he was like, he was not defeated the way he was the first time he was faced with this level of math that he's not used to.
So this is working out, this kind of one-on-one. We're not following the curriculum at this point. He's in what, grade 4? No, 5?
Grade 5, yeah.
Yeah, you know, so we had a teacher on earlier who's saying, you know, not overly worried about the elementary school kids. Like, they're going to get through this, right?
Yeah.
So I like the idea of people saying, if it's not working what's being sent home, as long as you're still learning, we'll make a go of it. We'll be fine. We'll get to the end of this. You'd said that you're a big believer that education isn't just about books. It's about broader knowledge of who we are and our place in this world. And with this lockdown, you've taken your classroom outside to focus on the change of season and note the changes as they're happening with the birds. Share some of the other outdoor activities that you guys are doing in your school.
Okay, well, gardening is a big thing right now. We already were doing maple syrup, so it actually, you know, we were still doing maple syrup and winding that up when the pandemic was announced, and then the state of emergency happened here. So it's actually kind of a blessing because, you know, science class all the time, gardening, and food sovereignty, like that was already kind of an important issue to me personally. And it's come front and center now. So I think the importance of that process of sprouting the seeds, growing them, you know, getting them started, planting them, and now we're trying different mediums. I went all gung-ho, and I'm going to try some hay bale planting this year, and, you know, so that's going to be something the kids are all going to participate in. And then food preservation, like that's going to, you know, who knows how long this is going to last, but that's how I'm planning my curriculum.
I love it. Tori, thank you so much for sharing this with our audience today, and we look forward to seeing what you guys end up with at the end of the gardening program, all the things you're preserving.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
So Chris Scribe is the director of the Indian Teacher Education Program at the University of Saskatchewan and also has a company called Think Indigenous, which hosts seminars and professional development for teachers to learn about education approaches from an Indigenous perspective. When the pandemic hit, he knew that parents and educators alike would struggle in these new uncharted waters. And he launched a Think Indigenous online education Facebook page with lessons for kindergarten to grade 8 students and teachers. We're going to talk to him and his partner on that website in a few minutes, but first I want to show you a sample of what's on that site. Dabney Warren is a volunteer instructor who takes students through the process of making a jingle dress, but you need to understand geometry to create these beautiful designs. So students actually get 2 lessons in 1. Let's check it out.
Whenever we're designing, whenever we're making jingle dresses, whenever we're making outfits, we're always using math without even knowing it. I never wanted to admit that I used math in my everyday life because the last time I ever took a math class was back in high school. But I do use math every day. And as I demonstrated on Monday, we did some equations of how much each color we came up with. So even in that, we used math. But today, we're going to kind of switch our focus on a different type of math, which is using angles and lines and understanding geometry and shapes. We're just going to kind of do just a quick overview about the different types of angles that we use when we're coming up with these designs, and also when we're cutting out the dress. How many of you remember utilizing geometry and knowing all the terminology that goes along with that? Does anybody remember any of the any of the angles' names, for example? I'm watching the comments as they're coming through, so I see you guys answering. Does anybody remember any angles and what their names are? This is like grade 7 math. This is the area where they're getting introduced to those different names of those angles. I know mostly adults are watching now, but maybe if you get your kids to watch who are in grade 7, this will kind of be a good introduction to angles and understanding and knowing those names of them. Does anybody remember what an acute angle is? No? I have TJ nodding his head. He doesn't remember what an acute angle is. No. Amiyasu, you want to let us know what an acute angle is? Do you remember what it is?
It's an angle that's Less than 90 degrees.
Less than 90 degrees. So it's an angle that is less than 90 degrees. So let's say right here is an angle, okay? What is this angle called?
A right angle.
A right angle. So this angle is called a right angle. Anybody know the reason why? Amias is putting up her hand here. Go, put the camera there.
It's a 90-degree angle.
It's a 90-degree angle.
90-degree angle. I am joined now by Chris Scribe, the founder of Think Indigenous, that Facebook page we just saw where that lesson was on, and Curtis Vinish, who is a first-year teacher and has partnered with Chris to put the content on that Think Indigenous online learning page. First of all, thank you both. I'm now using this site for my grade 4 students every day. The videos, it's perfect little digestible pieces, like 30 minutes each. Yesterday we learned about red willow harvesting and the cooperative relationship of things in nature. We saw a bit from Elder Kathy Bird in a video at the party, in the video at the beginning of this show where my son was going through a little video diary of his day. Chris, you said that the idea to branch out with Think Indigenous into an online learning site had come from a panicked conversation in your own home. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, for sure. One of the concerns, I guess, for everybody across Canada, across the world, was what are we going to do with school closures, kids at home, and partner Natasha, she brought up the concern that this is an entire year of school. It's half a year. And, we should figure out something to do. So immediately the wheels started in my head. And I thought, let's do an online classroom somewhere accessible, incorporating Indigenous knowledge, incorporating our ways of knowing and our ways of understanding. And using a network of teachers and educators that I know, call on them to volunteer to teach. So that sparked the beginning process and the thought of creating these online classrooms and these online opportunities for our students to kind of learn. And what happened was we just got so many great people volunteering, so many people tuning in, and finding the content relatable, easily accessible, and just kind of went from there and really created this opportunity to not only incorporate Indigenous education and knowledge, but to incorporate Indigenous ways of knowing into the curriculum and into teaching grades and what we strive towards and through Indigenous education. So this just was an amazing tool for us to work through that.
Curtis, what made you interested in wanting to jump on board this? You're a first-year educator yourself. You've got 26 grade 9 students, I believe. You're thrust into this bizarre new world of teaching these kids online. I would think that you've got your hands more than full just doing that, but you're like, hey, I'm going to come and help you, Chris, with this online learning site. What drove you to that?
I think what drove me is just knowing the need, kind of what Chris was talking about, of just there was a need that needed to be filled, and I think with Indigenous knowledge, there's no better way in terms of providing content, in terms of providing important cultural pieces for students and families and communities to grasp a hold, to learn, and as well as just playing a part as trying to help our community navigate through this.
I'll go back to Chris. You had said, that Indigenous knowledge is one of the least used tools that we have in education in North America. Explain that and why it's relevant to everybody, whether you're non-Indigenous or Indigenous.
So no matter where you go throughout the world, whatever territory, whatever land base that you exist in, you know that you're in that original land base. For us in North America, there are Indigenous groups that have been here for thousands of years. And with that, living and being here on this land and this territory, we have a specific education that was created from our own understanding in relation to the land in which we walk, live, and breathe. And we have so many powerful educators that don't have the letters behind their name, like a B.Ed, an M.Ed, a Ph.D., that are at that same level of understanding and that same level of knowledge. And people like Kathy Bird, people like some of the people that were on our site already, carry with them thousands of years of ancestral Indigenous knowledge. Mm-hmm. And when we share that, what happens is that we start to connect not only to Indigenous ways of knowing, but we find that it attaches itself and it meets outcomes and indicators that are outlined in the provincial curriculums. Mm-hmm. And that is one of the things that we separate when we talk about education, is that we think that our education system exists in a classroom where you sit in desks and there's 4 walls and there's bells ringing. But for Indigenous people, that's not our reality. Our classroom is everywhere that we live, breathe, walk, and talk. And that exists in all aspects of our lives. And really, truly, one of the beauties of things that we're doing here is it brings that to life so that people can look at these lessons, this education, and really see how powerful and amazing this knowledge is. And it's such an amazing tool for so many people, and it just really brings that to life. And I think that is one of the reasons why this work is so important, and one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about it and wanting to bring this forward for other people.
Well, there's 12,000 people now benefiting from this online site that you two have set up. This is teachers from abroad, across Canada, United States, Indigenous, non-Indigenous. Lots of people are interested in this. Who decides the content of it, and where do you find people to give these video? Like people, I was saying, there's video lessons. You can kind of park it for 30 minutes and get a lesson of something. Where do you guys find all these people and the other content that's on there? I'll leave it to whoever wants to answer. Put up your hand. Go ahead, Curtis. I think he's giving it to you.
Oh, okay. Well, we just have been reaching out with our contacts in the Indigenous community, and like you said, across Turtle Island, North America, and even out to Aotearoa to New Zealand. Using the contacts that people that have come across, that we both have come across in our journeys in education, and who have shared the same heart of sharing Indigenous knowledge. And each week, Chris and I just kind of message each other, like, who do we got to create a schedule, kind of create a template. And actually this Friday, we're going to try something a little bit new, where Chris and I do a podcast and kind of review the lessons, review the teachings, and actually kind of create a more interactive page with our parents, other educators, to start a bigger conversation about Indigenous education.
I wanted to ask too, what advice, I'll go back to you, Chris, but I also I want to hear from Curtis too after, for parents who are feeling the stress, worrying about their kids' education right now. As educators, what advice do you have to parents?
One of the benefits, silver lining behind everything that's happening right now, it is allowing us to be more connected with our children. It's allowing us the opportunity to be present in our children's, not only their education, but in their lives. I know that I found one of the most powerful,
Curtis, what advice do you have? I'm sure lots of parents are reaching out to you. You said you've got 26 kids, and I'm sure parents are ringing your phone off your hook or filling your inbox. What advice do you have for those of us who are worried that we're not doing it right?
I would just say, recognize that this is a pandemic, and this is obviously not normal. I think the most important is taking care of the spirit and the mental health of the home and the student and the children, making sure that that comes first. Because, of course, there's going to be things missed not being in the school, but just do the best you can. That's all you can do. Look for resources. I know that there's many educators out there doing amazing work, and I think just at the end of the day, try your best, and that's all you can do.
Are there challenges that you're finding that kids are having at that age, where you've got kids in grade 9, they're not at school where there's that structure. They're at home with their parents where there's already, they're not as easy to kind of boss around, I guess, but that's maybe not a nice way to put it, but they're independent thinkers, right? Are you finding that there is a struggle to get them to do assignments even at this point, to turn things in?
There is, but I think a part of that is, one, access to technology, being computer, laptop, phone. a lot of my kids, the only way they're able to do some of the work is through a cell phone. And so you think of number of distractions that are there. Another part, in terms of what our division and what our school has done, they've responded very well in terms of providing some of that, and also providing printing packages so kids can get things done. At the same time, it's obviously been a challenge, but the important thing in terms of my classroom and my pedagogy when it comes to teaching is relationship. So with that relationship, we've been able to have some success in terms of getting kids to at least do some things, and those some things are better than nothing. So we just kind of work with where they're at and continue to try to push them to use this time to try to learn, even though it's difficult at home when they might have brothers or sisters or other responsibilities to do.
Yeah. Well, I've heard from friends, too, they've got some of their older kids who are putting up a stink about doing their work at home. They've kind of put them to work teaching the younger ones, and that seems to be working for some people, too. Chris, I wanted to ask, what's the future of Think Indigenous, the online teaching tool? Is this going to continue to live after COVID?
You know, what we're trying to do is we're wanting to create this opportunity for people to access Indigenous knowledge. That never ends. That continues on as much as possible. The delivery of it, how it actually looks, that depends on our teachers' accessibility. Right now, they're able to volunteer to teach some of these lessons because we're at home and we're wanting to give back. Mm-hmm. But when things get back to some state of normalcy, you know, things will change, and so and that's basically the future, is that we continue to do the work. We try our best to accommodate situations and find people willing to do that for our communities.
Is there a lot of people who are knocking down your door wanting to do those online lessons to share? Like, now that it's kind of ballooned in popularity, I would think that it's probably on the radar of most educators, and they would want to be involved in this. Are they ringing you up?
Well, of course. I mean, it's this right here. What we're doing is, you know, it's something that's necessary, needed. A lot of people are interested. Mm-hmm. There's always that want to need to serve our communities and give back. That's what we found with Indigenous people globally, is that we are in this community wanting to serve and feed that back to our people. So we'll never have a shortage of people willing and wanting to do and share knowledge. There are thousands of Indigenous groups that exist on this planet, and everybody has their own brilliance and PhD level understanding of the world, and that's something that's always there, and I'm not worried about content, and I'm not worried about people not being able to connect.
There really is so much on this site, and I want to direct people watching at home. This is Think Indigenous, online learning for kindergarten to grade 8 students. You can find it on Facebook. There is tons of resources for this, for you to get through, not just this pandemic, but for teaching your kids well beyond when we're back to normal, if there is going to be a resumption of normalcy anytime soon. It's certainly a resource that I think a lot of people should introduce their kids to. I know it's something that's going to be used in my household every day. I love those little half-hour videos, and my 9-year-old does too. Thank you guys both so much for taking the time to join us today, and I hope nothing but success for Think Indigenous. I'd love to see it grow and what will happen for it next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. We're all out of time for talking about teaching our kids at home. I want to thank so much to our guests who joined us with their great insight and advice. Kokum Candy was amazing. It's too bad in the real world, when we're not social distancing, it would have been really nice to go and follow her around, follow her grandkids around, and just see what she gets up to every single day, homeschooling those 6 grandbabies of hers. Be sure to visit that Think Indigenous online learning on Facebook. That's for your kiddos. It's an amazing resource. And also, if you're a teacher, go. You'll find something there that I'm sure you can share with your students. This episode will be available for download as a podcast on our website, aptnnews.ca/podcast. And if you missed any of the shows and you want to catch up, you can check out the website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you next week.